This episode of Savvy and Sage podcast is sponsored by Color Street. These are 100% real nail polish strips made in the USA that don't require any dry time. Simply start with clean, dry nails, tear off the strip and gauge the proper size. Peel off the plastic front and backing and align with the base of your nail. Smooth and then file away any excess and voila, no drying needed. Shop my link in the description below. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Savvy and Sage podcast. My name is Savvy and I'm joined once again by my faithful AI in the sky. She's kind of like my know-it-all. It's Sage. Welcome back to the show. How are you, Sage?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
I am doing wonderful. Glad to be here on another episode. And actually, we have a special announcement we are making at the tippy top of this show. We want to let everyone know that we are coming together. That is right. We're so excited now that the pandemic is kind of being lifted a little. We have, the vaccine that a lot of people have been able to receive. And so now we are able to join our forces again. No more having to be apart from each other. Savvy and Sage are going to be joining together in real life again. So we're super excited about that. And yay, sound the alarms and the bells. So yes, we will be, and we'll actually be doing a bit of an on location series. We're going to have some traveling going on as well and be doing some different, we're going to be switching it up a bit, aren't we? We're going to be just bringing up a lighter feel to the show.
We will add more visual appeal and have different subjects that are going to be fun but fact-based, and also we're going to invite more, just get more of a draw from the listening audience as well.
Absolutely.
Get their reactions.
Yeah, and we'll be able to have more guests as well, thank goodness. So it's just going to be an all-around great kind of like remix. So we're going to be remixing up the show coming soon. So be on the lookout, actually coming in May. So be on the lookout and be ready for that. And in the meantime, in between time, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Make sure you hit that bell button so you can be notified whenever we do have new videos. And hopefully we'll be able to even throw in some lives on our social media pages. So make sure you like us on Facebook and on Instagram, and check out our website, which is also brand new, www.savvyandsagepodcast.com. So make sure you check us out there as well. Today we have a fun subject. We're talking about anger management. And, this is something that is really an issue right now. I think this is like one of the hottest topics that is happening, because you can almost take anything you're hearing in the news right now and you can relate it back to someone's anger management issue or problem. Literally, when you watch the news, if you're online, pretty much anything that you see, there's like an overabundance of things happening when it comes to school shootings, when it comes to domestic issues and even child abuse. Like, everything has been what seems like just skyrocketing out of control. It's just been a real increase, and it's an issue. And a lot of those have dealt with a lot of the societal pressures that we've had. And the pandemic is one of those in particular, because you see instances where, people are getting attacked for masks or attacked for no masks. There's really just been a lot of anger that has been just out there, and people are basically incapable of being able to hold back their emotions or being able to express them in a more positive manner. So that is what we're going to jump straight into today. And I know, Sage, that you have some good advice for our viewers on this subject. So let's just get right in. Let's talk about the overall issue with anger management.
Well, the overall issue is not just anger, but confusion. So we have had, I guess, the last 6 or 7 years, but let's say, the last 4.5 years of a lot of conflict. Just the general tone of our own nation has been under just a lot of confusion about which way to go. And then we were hit with the pandemic. and then worldwide. And it's really put all the leaders everywhere in a very tough situation. They couldn't take anything for granted. But back to our own home country, yes, there are different levels of angry people, and now the upside of that, and you can comment on any level that I'm discussing, but the upside of that, if there is one, is just that everything is coming out in the open. And that is one very positive thing about the internet. Everyone that has access to the internet is going to express something. It's not necessarily going to be a good thing, but it is going to be, an expression from their immediate feelings. So, so we're going to touch on that, and then we'll want to talk about, we basically kind of cover why it is, and then we're going to cover what we're going to do about that. But there's one thing I do want to bring up to you too, because in my research, I was, and also because I've worked in different professional levels, is the development of what we call soft skills. Are you familiar with that term, soft skills?
I am not.
Well, it's basically, as opposed to IT skills, soft skills is the ability to work with different personalities, especially as a manager. Professional people might have to be in HR, human resources, and trying to be able to relate to issues in the workplace. But you also need soft skills even in your domestic residence.
And
that is tied to anger management, because I remember reading about that. Even in the workplace, there's been a lot of things happening that you would never hear on the news 20 years ago, as far as, just the general negative discourse.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. And one could even argue that these are real angry outbursts that are happening. And so we're going to dig into that a little bit. Let's talk about, reasons why, or, just ways to handle, how to avert having these outbursts. And we can start with talking about, confusion. And that's a big issue with a lot of angry outbursts that are having, whether that be in a relationship, a job, a community crisis. If people are getting angry if they don't feel satisfied, and oftentimes this leads to a lot of discomfort, which I think can also lead to angry outbursts as well. And so we have a little bit of a list of things that we can talk about. You actually
how to manage the anger management, you mean?
Yes, how to manage it. So one of the suggestions was limiting the local, how much local, national, and international news that you intake or that you listen to. And I think that's a big one. I don't know if you've noticed recently on the news, not only has the news had to report a lot of negative news that has been happening in the world, but on top of that, I've noticed that the news itself, some of the anchors, especially the opinionated anchors or the talking heads that they have, oftentimes make things worse by adding in their negative feelings or their negative. And I'll just put it out there, I'm in this specific moment and thinking of Tucker Carlson and what he's recently said in the news. Did you hear about that?
Yes, about the children in the mask.
Good Lord, just
ridiculous.
Just too much. So that's an angry outburst in itself right there. And so now
he's just an angry man.
Yeah, absolutely. So now not only as we are the public, not only are we in a societal angry situation, being i.e. the pandemic, then we're watching a negative, news story about, whatever it may be, and then we have a negative anchor saying even more negative things and having an angry outburst on national television. So all of those things compiled, it's really a rough situation. It's something that you have to really tread lightly in and be careful of, because there's a lot going on when it comes to anger and people not being able to manage their own.
Well, people get angry on both sides and they don't know what to do. But
Yes.
I know you're familiar with, we might as well spill some tea here, but we're talking about, for example, Rush Limbaugh, who passed away of
Right.
cancer.
Right.
But when you go back and listen to some of his explanations when he was interviewed, I think it's a few years ago, prior to his passing, but he was laughingly saying, "Well, I don't really," and I'm paraphrasing,
Right.
because this is not a direct quote.
Right.
So, but he was saying laughingly that, well, a lot of things I don't feel that strongly about, but when I exaggerate my feelings like that, I get more listeners. I think the same is true for Alex Jones, who's totally off his rocker, and then Tucker Carlson. They just want to generate. It gets down to the lower level of broadcasting, to where they'll just scratch and scrape the bottom of the barrel to try to see who they can get to listen to them, so they can get ratings. And that's what's really sad. You really don't have of course, a lot of the listeners on this podcast might not remember people like Walter Cronkite, because that's decades ago, but there was a level of integrity and ethics that used to be in the newsroom, but that's sort of like out the window now. And that kind of broadcasting to the general public also creates anger, because a lot of people who listen to it, like me and you, and you're a lot younger than I am, on some level, that just is not right.
Yeah, we get angry. So not only is he having an angry outburst of his own, but now that then causes your viewer or your listener to get angry as well. If they agree with you, they're getting angry with you about whatever you're ranting and raving about. Or if they disagree with you, then they're getting mad at you for ranting and raving about something that you should not be on TV ranting and raving about. So yes, it creates an overall angry energy that is like a blanket over an entire listening audience, even if you're not a listening audience, because I really am not a fan of his show, nor do I listen to and or watch his show. However, obviously he makes national news when he does things like this. So then you hear it on other news stations who are talking about him, talking about that. And so it's just a world of, angry outbursts happening. I.e. the anger management that needs to happen and take place. And another thing we talked about too, or that was mentioned, was, limiting how much time we spend online, soaking up information that isn't useful. So instead of doing that, create your time online doing things that can help benefit you or educate you in a way, or research or things like that, because being online, I know I can spend hours on Twitter just in a world of nonsense that doesn't matter. Yeah.
Absolutely. I know. It's very enticing when you don't have any direction for that day,
Right.
So if there's somebody on TV, whether you like them or you hate them, and they're like ruthlessly making these statements, then you can get engulfed in that and forget what's really important.
Yeah.
That is kind of what has happened to really all around the world. People are just unsettled. So what do we do about it? And that's the next thing. What can we do?
Right.
Well, we did talk about limiting how much we take in.
Right.
It's kind of like consumption. We're consuming this kind of negative stuff. And sometimes when we go online, and I know this, even me, and I'm saying that, I'm not trying to sound too humble here, but I'm pretty disciplined. I grew up being pretty disciplined, but sometimes if I don't have a direction for the whole day, then you get your marching orders from work. Well, if you don't have a full-time job behind the desk and you get something, you're going to look sometimes at all the other sources from social media on to sort of set your tone. We have to get away from that. We've got to, go someplace quiet and write our own goals for that day and that week and that month,
Right.
on our own.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to do because I don't know about you, but the first thing I do is open up my Yahoo Mail, check what's going on, and
Yes, I know.
I'll sneak around and read the news. And
Yeah. That's always the first thing I do as well, is either read some type of news on my phone or am physically watching some form of news on TV most days. And so it is hard, and it's something that you have to, really discipline yourself to cut back. I know sometimes I just pick entire days where I'm like, okay, I'm not even going to be, on Facebook or Twitter. I'm not going to do this or that. I'll just for a whole day and just kind of relieve unless it's, an obligation for work, obviously. But other than that, like personally, I just try to stay off some days because, and another thing you can do as well is to, and this seems like it is something that most people would already have, or that you would think that most people would already know, but developing critical thinking skills, and this is so that you aren't so reactive when it comes to interactions with other people. And so when I think about that, that's a big one. I think that's a really big one, because developing critical thinking skills can help you in so many aspects of life. Anger management is one of the biggest ones that can really help you, because if you can train yourself to take 5 seconds, count to 10 or 5, or breathe, or do this or do that, or even just think in that moment of anger what the consequences could and or should be of whatever said action you're thinking about doing. If you can have those critical thinking skills to stop yourself and really go through the motions of that, then you can really keep yourself from making illogical decisions in the heat of the moment. You know what I mean?
right.
Yeah, the more rational train of thinking you can have during those heated times, and these are times when it's not easy to think rationally. These are times when it's easier to be upset and jump to your first initial reaction of what's being received. You want to give out that first initial thing, emotion, I should say. So yeah, having a critical thinking skills is very key to be able to back yourself down in that situation, to be able to talk to yourself and critically think your way out of it and take the right steps in order to be mature and not have an angry outburst, or not have a domestic dispute, or any of those, other horrible things that oftentimes happen.
And at a deeper level, it also requires, and I'm thinking back in my studying psychology, and also while in the classroom in high schools. And I was in some high schools where it wasn't like, in the super nice areas of town sometimes, but so I had a lot of different students with a lot of different energies, but they taught me more sometimes, I think, than I taught them, because I learned a lot about anger management. You have to have confidence you just flat have to have confidence in yourself that whatever you are saying is making sense to the other person or the other people. You really do. You have to develop that. And it's not overnight, because a lot of people, you and I both know that there's a lot of adults that are intimately damaged from something, whether verbal, sexual, mental, emotional abuse throughout their life.
Right.
A lot of that just comes to a head when they are with someone very familiar with them, a family member, their own children, their own spouse, their own partner, their own mother, father, whatever. And they'll let loose on that one or other individuals quicker than they will at a total stranger. It happens all the time. But you really have to, as you get older, try and well, not try. There is no try. There's just do. That's what Yoda says.
Yes.
You really have to develop confidence in yourself, and of course that comes with using logic and being proactive. And it takes personal positive grooming to do that, so that you can kind of resist the urgency. It's like, I got to say this one thing. Well, no, you don't. You don't have to say that one thing. You can turn your emotions to another level. But at school, when I would be, working with some of these kids, they're teenagers, and they would have these extreme outbursts one day, and then I would just, stand there, and I would just tell them, well, you're saying that's how you're feeling right now, but we're going to get through this today and everything. Or I might say, bring the coach and let him take some time out. For some reason, I was pretty calm.
Yeah.
Because I knew that these teenagers might be going through something at home. They might be going through something with, between themselves and a friend, or a new boyfriend or new girlfriend. I knew that they were on an emotional high, because I remember how I was when I was a teenager. And I'll tell you, Savvy, it really did help. It helped me as a teacher, because they don't teach you that when you're going to school on how to do this one-on-one. They just teach you what the curriculum's going to be about.
Right.
I had to learn that on my own.
That's very
but
true.
It actually helped me in dealing with other people. I mean, other adults, other family members. It really did.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would agree. And, just two quick points I want to make on what you were saying when you were talking about, it almost takes like a level of maturity when you get to the point where you're able to walk away from certain situations, or not let yourself get in the heat of the adrenaline moment and say those angry words or hurtful things or whatever it is. And I think that you're very right about that. I think there's a level of maturity to being able to manage your anger that is so, like, we should be promoting it. It's so cool. Like, cool, calm, and collected is exactly that. It is so cool to be cool, calm, and collected. Like, do you know how many times I've seen like videos where people have gotten into huge arguments where easily someone could have gotten so angry that they could have, punched that guy in the face or whatever it was. And instead, that person like low key like cussed him out, but didn't even have to say any cuss words, but he like educationally like whooped his behind. Like he verbally educationally like told him what was up, and like he couldn't say anything because he just outsmarted him with his words. And like there's something so cool about that. Like, instead of getting so angry, if you can just prove someone's wrong educationally just by just talking to them and communicating with them, there is something so genuine and awesome about being able to keep your cool, keep your calm, not go there, and just, even if you don't have a good comeback or you're not right in a situation, there is still something to be said about the person who just is able to be the bigger person and walk away. I think especially nowadays, like, I think that's something that should be like the trend to follow. Like, it's definitely the cool thing to do for sure. I'm like, that's no doubt. Like, I'm telling you for sure, that's the cool thing.
Right. And it does require maturity. I look at some of these shows, the Real Housewives of blank, 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 whoever they are.
Yeah.
And of course, those shows, I mean, you've been in production. I've been in production before. Mm-hmm. You and I both know that they are staged. A lot of people don't believe that. They think it's impulsive. It's really not. Most of it is, 90% of it is just staged.
Yes. Yeah.
Like tell one of the housewives, well, you push this table over and you're going to get angry, and you pull out her hair extensions and you break off her
pour a drink down her shirt. Yeah.
Yeah, all that. I mean, it's so silly. Unfortunately, what happens is you have people watching that of all ages, and they are thinking in the back of their mind, well, this is how adults act, And it's okay if they act that way, then maybe I should act that way, quote unquote. But so that's another thing too. We don't really see a lot of TV shows that merit well-mannered, clever people. They're just like, as I'll tell you what, a lot of my high school students, when I think back, had more wisdom and more to say that made sense to me than a lot of the adults and politicians that I hear. And I mean that by every fiber in my body. I truly mean that.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the kids I know, I'm talking teenagers, some of them really had good anger management skills. They would know to walk away, which is amazing, you know.
Absolutely.
So, one thing I was going to mention too is just generally back to the self-discipline. That is the thing that many of us are lacking. We're just used to shooting from the hip. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that just flat is going to require some good hard work and self-examination, whether it's comfortable or fun or not.
Right.
Sometimes you just have to work on that.
Yeah.
You just have to work on that.
Work on yourself. Yeah. And be able to admit it. You know, I mean, no one is perfect, and you just have to be able to admit it, accept it, and then try to work on yourself.
Yes, because that's ultimately the most important person in your life is yourself. Mm-hmm. And you have a lot to offer. Everybody has something to offer. Every single person, mm-hmm. regardless of where they come from or who they are. Everybody has something positive within them that they can leave as a legacy, you know, mm-hmm. say a kind word.
Yeah.
It's real easy to get caught up in that whirlwind of opinions. And the thing is, it never leads to anything. It's sort of like the concept of the anarchists. You know, they twirl around and spin around and lash out, but they don't have any direction or leadership skills. They just create chaos.
Right.
And, you know, that's what, you know, that is inhumane to everybody. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't teach anybody. Another thing, too, to keep in the back of our minds, especially if we are adults, is what example are we setting to any younger people around us? Mm-hmm. That is really, really, really important. I mean, from infants all the way up, because I was just hearing and I've made the statement too, about the resiliency of kids, and I was hearing something on one of the stations that I listened to, and this woman said exactly what I've said, and I've said that to you too, where they talk about the resiliency of kids. Well, again, the only thing that makes the kids resilient is that they're still in a growth pattern. They're in what we call positive nitrogen growth. They're still growing. Their cells are turning over faster than they're dying. You get to be my age, and it's the direct opposite.
Right.
But during that period of time of growing up, they're growing up at such a fast rate compared to, a mature adult, that they're taking things in mentally, physically, emotionally, on every single level, and trying to understand the world around them. So, yeah, kids are resilient, but I'll tell you what, there are mental and emotional scars that will last an entire lifetime. So you don't want to do things to toughen them up. You don't want to do things in front of them, where sometimes parents will pit one parent against the other and ask the child, who do you love the best? And,
oh, yeah.
That just creates so much tumultuousness in their little lives.
That's a great advice. And another thing, just to go along with that as well, I've even seen in my young life, growing up and babysitting, I've seen situations where the child would use the parents as pawns to pin one against the other. Mommy said, yes, I can't do this, or I can't have this, but you said that I could, and then the dad lets the child have, or vice versa, whatever. And and then you got the dad arguing with the mom arguing with the dad, because they've got the child wrapped around their finger, and now you've got a situation where, you've got a domestic situation and your child's caught in between the two of you.
Exactly.
And so those are other issues that I've even seen in my immediate experience, that I could recognize at even a young age. This is not what you want to be doing with your child, in front of your child. You should not be making these decisions apart. You should be making these decisions as a parental front together. So those were things that I recognized. But yeah, getting back to just the anger management issue at hand, I think that it's something that a lot of people, if you don't recognize it, it's something that if you're hearing from friends and family that they believe that this is going to be an issue for you, or that it is an issue for you, it's something that you should really consider seeking help for, or just to try to come to terms with it for yourself. Because I think a lot of people have anger issues and they don't seek help, or they don't have anyone in their corner to help them try to find help for their issues. Because let's face it, I think a lot of people have anger management issues that don't admit it or don't know it, or maybe they don't even care.
Well, they respond to their emotions rather than their logical thinking also. And then they'll find a million ways to justify why they did such a thing. Unfortunately, I'm taking a leap to, like domestic abuse situations where, and there is abuse between women and men and women, but it's overwhelmingly between men over women. And when that happens, frankly, what happens is if it happens one time and they act like they're forgiven, it's sort of like a broken record. They tend to repeat that, and the abuse gets even worse. And the men will, in this case, in a particular case, then they will try to keep rationalizing or justifying. I actually knew someone who was, I think every woman by the time you're my age or something has heard these stories, but I remember this husband of this friend of mine told her and she just about believed it. He said, the reason I get so angry is because I love you, and I want to, and I want you to know that I lash out because I want you to be better. They come up with the most inane and insane rationality, which is not, it's completely irrational, in order to justify what they do. So instead of seeking to control doing that, then they put it on their partner, therefore it relieves them of the guilt. You see what I mean? It's very twisted, but it happens all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Every
all
day.
Over the world.
Yes, every day. It's so true. And we can even, tag a domestic abuse hotline for everyone here on the show, and, leave some .orgs and some websites for you guys for anger management as well. But it's definitely an issue. It's definitely widespread. And, I would give the advice of, some other ways to kind of try and combat feelings of anger. I always say meditation, which I think people hear that word and they're like, oh, I'm not a hippie, or I'm not a whatever, or I don't know yoga. Like, no, it's like you can literally just sit in a quiet space and like breathe and close your eyes and just like be mindless for a while, and just like kind of just set yourself apart from what's going on all around you. That is just a form of meditation in itself. So just different things that you can do. Find hobbies. I know some of mine are like, I love to like garden if I can, if it's not too hot, because I'm in Vegas. Or I like to do adult coloring books. I mean, I know that sounds like it might be super lame, but it's actually so much fun. I love to get, some nice colored pencils and do adult coloring books, and it really relaxes me. And also cooking as well, because I feel like once I get to chopping up things, it's a good anger release. Like once you get to really chopping up a lot of, vegetables or this or that or fruit. I've always kind of felt some form of solace when I'm chopping up things. I know that might sound weird, but it's almost like a form of meditation in itself. But just like therapeutic things, therapeutic things like that may seem like everyday or mundane, that you can kind of try to establish in your life if you're feeling feelings of anxiousness or anger or angst all the time. Those are just some advice that Savvy would give to anyone who feels like they have a lot of anger built up. Just try to kind of like woo-saw yourself,
Right.
Yeah.
And also reach out to your friends. I find sometimes that can change my entire mood.
Absolutely.
Because I tend to ruminate about a lot of things and think things over. And of course, I'm a writer, so I write things out that, I've got spiral notebooks of all kinds of stuff, and inside that has actually helped me. You can go to college a number of years, and I sure have gotten, and just took courses that I never really turned into a degree some of the courses I took just because I was interested in just human interaction. So what came out of all that was just my sense to seek and understand, and as a result, I write and write and write. I know a lot of people don't want to write; they'd rather do math or read stuff on the internet. But I'm telling you, that is a real source of therapy, is to write things out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
It does. It's that hand-eye. I mean, it literally is the hand-eye coordination connection that helps you to put your thoughts down and makes you feel a lot better too.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. That's something that I also, I want, that's something that I want to do more, I think, in the future, but it's definitely something that I have used in the past as a good therapeutic tool to write down keep a journal. I actually used to keep a journal for a while, and I really liked that. I really felt like that was a good way to kind of express yourself without having to feel like it's something, especially if it's something you feel like you can't tell anyone, it's really good to write those things down,
Yeah, just hope nobody finds it.
Yeah. Keep it under your pillow, under your bed or something,
Use it for blackmail purposes or something.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing that people are used to seeking information by reading, which is really good. It's always good to read, but I think, not that I think, I know that it's going to require a lot of self-reflection, and even positive self-reflection. Many people tend to, like I mentioned before, they internalize and they will ruminate over maybe mistakes they made or what they would have, could have, should have done. That just isn't going to get you anywhere. When you do self-reflection, you're actually reflecting your emotion, how you've affected other people, and start thinking about the good things that you have done, and think about the good things that you are capable of doing, and the good things that you want to do. Mm-hmm. That will definitely help give you more self-esteem, so you won't have these anger management issues within yourself, because when you lash out to others, there is a part of you that feels so ashamed, and then you hate, start getting down on yourself, and then you start rationalizing, as I said before, that these other people made you feel this way. It just takes a lot of self-discipline and self-reflection. But start with thoughts of what you have to offer, what you have done that's good, what more can you do, and the just the talents and the skills and the positive things that you have to offer. That's really important, because that will help turn you around to feel happy about yourself. If somebody's really happy and confident and well-adjusted, they're not going to have anger management problems, period.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. You're describing me. Well-adjusted, no anger issues at all.
Good for you.
I know.
I'm happy. I am happy for you.
All right, well, that was a great show. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe and check us out again coming in May with an all-new remix show. Savvy and Sage are coming to you live and direct, in person and together. So get ready for that. Yay, we can't wait, and we will see you then. Thank you once again to our viewers. Check you out next time. Bye.